Hello and welcome to When Grooms Get Engaged, a podcast about a guy's perspective to wedding planning from two guys that are currently trying to survive their own. I'm Steve.
And I'm Chris, and each week we will talk about how we navigated a different part of the wedding planning journey, what we learned in the process, and what maybe we wish we had done differently. So Steve, what are we talking about this week?
Chris, this week we are talking about stress, we are talking about setbacks, we're talking about bad news, and more importantly, we're talking about kind of how to deal with these things. And
I'm really kind of sick of your attitude, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, don't fight me on this. I'll tell the world what you did that one time. So right now, this is the part where wedding planning gets real. You've sent out invites to people. I'm hoping you booked a venue. You have a date. So you're at the point of almost no return. Where backing out is prohibitively expensive, where people are making plans. When you get hit with bad news at this point, this is when it's especially brutal and especially hard. Because like Chris, before you even have a venue, if like some photographer tells you they're not available, like who cares? No one's coming to a wedding. There's no wedding yet. But now that you do, and someone says they can't come, now it really means something.
Yeah, it's kind of an uphill battle, an uphill climb, and you probably, you might notice it, but you're going to have a mountain of decisions to make, and just steadily that stress level is going to increase as you see the budget go up and money is spent, and you're making 1,000 different decisions. It's very easy to start feeling overwhelmed and also, quite frankly, like take it out on your partner, right? When things kind of get rough. And so it's just important to kind of take a step back and have some tools to kind of manage your stress levels and when you receive bad news, right?
Mm-hmm. So Chris, what kind of bad news can you potentially receive during this process?
So many things. I might just highlight a few and then you can kind of jump in. Obviously, your family is probably going to be the leading contender of a lot of stress and trigger points, right? They know how to push your buttons. They're going to have a lot of opinions on the way you should do things or how other people in your family may have done it in the past and why aren't you doing it the same way? And, why aren't you letting us make any decisions or be involved enough? There's just like everyone's going to have an opinion about your wedding, and you're just going to, have to kind of deal with those interpersonal relationships, especially when it comes to family. So that's what I'll say first.
Yeah. Keeping people happy, right? Even if these are people that maybe it's not their event, but they're important to you, so they will have opinions. And keeping them not annoying makes your life less annoying. So you're right. Family is the biggest culprit of this, especially parents, because they want to be super involved. But since it's not actually their event, they don't have to deal with the logistics of making whatever they want to get involved with happen, They're great at giving
just throwing Hail Marys, just throwing things from the back row, and you just are like left to like try to like catch and pick those things up.
Yeah, and it's like, and then could maybe even be like games involved where like one side of the family wants to be like, oh, hey, we're this involved. The other sometimes like, oh no, hey, we're this involved. And it's like, there might be a million different things coming at you, and then if you have siblings, how do you get all the siblings involved in, part of the wedding, whether it be ushers, maybe they have to give speeches, maybe they're in the wedding party, maybe you have young nieces and nephews. If you include one, do you have to include the other? So you're just going to get bombarded with opinions, you're going to get bombarded with requests, and you're going to get bombarded with, hey, you should do it this way, which is the worst one.
Yeah, it's tough to field all of those opinions, right? And like only, you and your partner kind of have a vested interest in this. And like at the end of the day, you have to make the decision. But, it's so easy for everyone else just to lay their opinion out to you without any, repercussions or thought about, 2 or 3 layers deep of how that affects everything. So just kind of be aware of that. You kind of have to let it roll off your shoulders a little bit and just kind of, again, depending on the situation, you can accept it with grace, or just like, I'll keep that in mind, as simple like that. Or, you can just be like, we are planning our wedding, and we want you to be involved, and we welcome your opinions, but now's not the time. Or, there's ways to navigate those discussions.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to kind of consider that while a lot of these opinions or maybe, unsolicited advice can be annoying, especially if it's coming from family, it's coming from a place of like, good nature. They do want to help
Yeah.
out. They do want to be involved, and a lot of families look at a wedding as a family event, not so much your wedding, but like the family's wedding, because the families are coming together. You see it on invites, so and so with their families, or, this family invites you. So just know that it'll be annoying. Yes. They're also annoyed that you're not listening to them. But yeah, ultimately, it's not coming from a bad place. You just got to be good at managing it. Right. That's kind of what we're hoping to embark on this episode, is nothing is coming at you for the most part with hostility. However, not all of it is wanted.
Yeah, I think I saw on Instagram something recently. It was like, wedding planning is the first group project you have to do with your parents as an adult, and it's always very revealing.
Chris, I saw that same one. I almost like fell out of my chair. I'm like, wow, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you're going to have to like manage upwards. And again, also, there's a lot of things that are going to depend on like, are they contributing to the wedding, right? So, if they decide they want to pay for the wedding dress, they might want to be involved in the shopping of it, right? They want to see it. They want to, be a part of the process. And so finding little ways for them to be involved is kind of important, even if they maybe don't have any decision-making authority. Try to find ways to keep them involved, and, it might make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah. And they love telling their, friends and family about this. They get so excited that you're getting married, like, love saying, hey, you're doing this, you're doing that. A little bit of it is just, they're just proud of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they just get a little overzealous, and they're not dealing with the stress that you are. So to them, it's just, nothing else happening. It's one little thing. They're very happy. They just have all the positive emotions of this with none of the stress, so they'll freely give you opinions. And don't take it out on them, but yes, first thing to figure out how to manage.
Yeah. And something else that could potentially happen is there also might be some competition or some stress between different families, or both sides of the family trying to contribute and, trying to do right by the couple. And then, that can cause some stress and some drama about who's paying for what and how much. And so again, just try to communicate, try to keep a level head. And at the end of the day, just realize that, this is about you and your partner and having a special day. And, sometimes in the moment you can get heated and you can feel a certain way, but just try to take a step back and realize that they're just trying to, again, be involved and celebrate you both. And they want to have an awesome day.
Yeah, of course. So, involve them where you can, but don't be afraid to also, you don't have to say yes to every opinion.
You have to stand up for yourself a little bit too, and just kind of draw a line, but you can do it in a respectful way.
Mm-hmm. So Chris, family will have opinions. What about vendors? What kind of opinions can they come back with you with?
Well, probably whatever you budgeted for certain things, florals, DJ, and then, you start getting some quotes back and suddenly, this is 2 times what I thought it was going to be. This is 3 times what I thought it was going to be. So just realize your budget might be a little bit off, and you might have to have, discussions and kind of look at other places to save depending on what's important to you, right? Like, again, throughout this process, you will start to learn where you want to spend your money, where you want to put your money to work, what's important to you. But you might have to make some sacrifices in other places, and that's okay. Like, again, it's your wedding. You don't have to have a storybook wedding with a castle and 10,000 band members. There's ways to save money, and just take a second, budget smartly, and this will kind of resolve itself a little bit.
Yeah, when a vendor comes back to you with a quote, don't be afraid to not accept it. Or ask them, hey,
substitutions.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is a great one, right? Maybe you'll get a quote back for, I don't know, everything is upgraded: linens, tablecloths, napkins, plates, towels, whatever the case may be. and the quote is astronomical. Like, don't be afraid to ask them, like, hey, are there a different set of napkins that could work? Do we need chargers for the table? Does everyone need two napkins? Could they make do with one? Um, like, you don't have to accept the first quote, you know, and you can also negotiate with them, or not so much negotiate, but Chris, like you mentioned, substitutions. Like, ask them, like, see what's available. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, especially when it comes to florals, ask for different ideas that still might fit within your theme or color scheme, and a lot of times they'll be able to provide you with another option that is, maybe 20% cheaper,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the route you can go down, right? And also shop around, right? Get 3, 4, 5 quotes from different companies so you know what you're dealing with. Certain companies are going to be charging more for different things, right? The actual design piece or the actual florals or whether using artificial, like all this stuff. So get those quotes and then you have a good floor, and then you can start to maybe go in depth with a couple of vendors that you kind of really liked, who really got you connected with in your interview. Schedule a second one and see what else they have to offer.
This is actually kind of funny because we ran into this with our welcome party. Um, we were emailing a bunch of vendors, right? Because we had about 100 people and we wanted to buy the water. So in Corfu specifically, there's very limited places that this can happen in. So one of the first vendors that we got, their quote we didn't like because it felt like another wedding. It was a seated menu. It was past food. It was literally a second one. It was like, this is dumb. We're not going to do this. So then we went to every other vendor. And what they offered was either way over our budget or not what we were looking for. So our wedding planner is like, hey, do we want to ask him again? And I'm like, yeah, like we like the place, but like the menu felt like a wedding. Like we just want past the apps. We just want lots of alcohol, like something chill. She's like, okay, let's ask them. So she asked for us and they did exactly that. The price came in, $20, $30 a person less because it was like simple, like a bunch of past apps. It was a bunch of alcohol. Like it was a more low key setting and we were able to get what we want. So yeah, a vendor might give you a quote. Doesn't mean they can't do something else that could fit your needs better. So yeah, always ask them.
Yeah, and I think leaning on your wedding planner too to like kick off those interviews or just do a lot of preliminary interviews, because you can obviously they should know your budget, right, for certain things. And so before you even get to the interview process, they can maybe provide 5 options that are all within roughly your budget, right? There's always room to upgrade. And, once you actually have the call, you never know exactly what's going to go down. But, they can do a lot of that initial work for you so that you're not wasting your time spinning your wheels and, interviewing people that are, 3x your budget. They're supposed to be the experts. They're supposed to be helping you stay within budget. So lean on them. And a lot of times, sometimes they also they might have preferred vendors and you'd get a discount by working through them, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, shop around, talk to your wedding planner. Don't be afraid to push back. This is your day. And just because you're spending a ton of money literally everywhere doesn't mean you have to spend the most amount of money on each individual thing,
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, that's a great point. And I think like vision is important, right? You start getting a sense of what you want your wedding to look like, but make sure you're still flexible. Mm-hmm. Right. It's easy to fall in love with the dream and you want all these luxurious things, but try to realize at the end of the day, everything costs money. And so if you're flexible with that vision, you'll find that the process can be a little bit smoother, and you're able to pivot a little bit more easier to different things and different ideas that you might not have considered initially.
Yeah. And I think when you're setting up the budget, this is why I think it's a good idea to set up your budget in brackets, like your decoration budget, for instance. Like this helped us in our decoration phase because like we can upgrade plates, we can upgrade knives, forks, spoons, cups, napkins. But our whole budget for decorations is like a set number. So every single thing we upgrade for that, takes away from that budget. So we can kind of see like, okay, these plates, these chargers are beautiful, but are they worth $10 a person? Because all of a sudden it's $1,000 just for chargers that really it's gonna look great in one picture, but like no one's gonna notice after that. So this is where you can kind of like pick and choose, like see what makes sense instead of just like getting freaked out in the first place. You have to have an actionable step for it.
Yeah, another piece of advice is, two critical parts of the wedding, or not critical parts, but part of the catering process is you're going to have table linens and napkins, right? And the advice that we were given is like splurge on one of them and then go basic on the other. So whatever you feel
Mm-hmm.
like is more important to you, whatever speaks more to you, either splurge on the linen, go cheaper on the napkins, or vice versa. And that way you can save a little bit of money, and most people won't really notice.
Oh man, I forgot which one we're doing. I think we're actually looking through our decoration options later today. So maybe next week I'll have follow-ups on that.
Yeah, we went more basic linens and upgraded napkins, and we wanted to also pick a color scheme because we're gonna have a lot of natural light. Our wedding is in summertime Chicago, so like the sun should be out later until like 8 p.m. And so like when dinner's happening, it's probably going to be more like golden hour.
Hmm.
So we wanted to make sure that we had a look that kind of looked good throughout the different phases of the night, right? Through golden, like late afternoon to golden hour, and then into like more nighttime. So something to think about if you have a lot of natural light coming through.
Yeah, no, that's going to be really nice. One other thing that might come up is people asking you for invites, be it plus ones, right? Kids, maybe their parents, right? Or maybe your parents have a friend that they would love to be there. You will probably get solicitations for at least like a set of invites. People love parties, right? People love you. Why wouldn't they? You're amazing. Both of you are beautiful together. So of course they're gonna want to be there, you know? But this is where you kind of need to like have a clear idea of where you are with your budget, where you are with your count. And don't be afraid to say no if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't fit.
Yeah, and you can always say, we need time to hear back, and we can get back to you on that. Like buy yourself some time, and you can see how the RSVP process goes. You're always going to be surprised by who can and who cannot make it
Mhm.
at the end of the day, and that's another stress trigger, right? Like someone you really care about cannot make it. You might feel offended, but just try to realize that they're something might be come up, or like they have a work thing they just really can't get out of. Unfortunately, like everyone's in a different situation. A lot of people would like to be there. So just try not to let that get you down. It's a little disappointing sometimes to hear from certain people that they can't make it, but just try not to let that affect you too much.
Yeah, and Chris, that's a good point, right? You're gonna see no's from people that you've known since elementary school. People that you've grown up together. Maybe you've seen their kids. You've gone to their weddings, and for whatever reason, they can't come to yours, and that's gonna sting. That's gonna hurt, and that's gonna suck. But really, you at that point, you have two options. You can wallow, and feel sorry for yourself, or you can realize, things happen. People are different parts of life. Like it's nothing personal, although it may seem that way. But at the end of the day, you have something more important to do. Like you got to plan a wedding. You got to plan the best damn wedding possible, right? Just know that that will happen, more than once, unfortunately.
So again, like down the road, you might get those cancellations, or those respectfully declines, and then you
Always
might have some room
respectfully.
to invite some other people, right? And then we've talked about in previous episodes, you might want to have kind of like a B tier list of guests to kind of backfill or invite. They're like, hey, I would really have loved for these people to have come initially, but just our budget didn't allow. But now that we've seen maybe 10 people decline, that now we have some room for some other people to join that we were able to invite. And you should be happy, like, hey, now we get to invite these other people that are going to be like really happy to be a part of our special day. So look at it as an opportunity.
Chris, I actually have a story on this, the inverse. So you know how we mentioned like you had ABC people, to kind of make your guest count. There are a few people that I didn't include in our original invites just so that we can hit that like, 100 people, because my parents were, inviting people, like including the invite. And I had what I have. I had maybe like 7 or 8 people, 10 people that I cut that I really wish I didn't. And as the wedding got further and further, and especially when I got the invites in the mail physically, I just started feeling super guilty. I'm like, oh, God, I really wish I invited these people. Like, this is stupid. I should have invited them in the first place. So then I had some awkward conversations that were pretty much like, hey, I know you know I'm getting married. You may have not gotten an invite yet. This is my bad. I was way too focused on the guest list. If you can make it, I would love to send you an invite. So this is kind of like, I guess, going back to, one of our earlier episodes with the guest count. I know it's going to be hard. You're going to want to manage, but like if someone you actually legitimately want to be there, just screw it. Just invite them. Like the guilt that I felt by not inviting these people was terrible. It was so annoying. I was like, how do I bring this up? It's such an awkward conversation. But just know that at this point, like it might happen. It might come up.
Yeah. And I think conversely, like, again, it's like, it's a tough position to be in, because I think, as also you mentioned, like you got to stick to your budget too initially, right? Like, so like when the invites first go out, you kind of have to play hardball, right? You have to kind of stay strong, and maybe just wait and see a little bit, for some responses, and then you can kind of make a better judgment on what's going to be allowed. And sure, like if it's a couple people, like go for it. It's probably not going to be that much of a difference, but I think, stick to your budget, stick to your plan, and it'll all resolve itself in the end.
Yeah. If you're dropping a couple people just to hit your budget, I think it's okay to include them, right? If it's 30 people, it's a different story entirely, But yeah, man, Chris, those conversations, rough, super stressful. I'm glad I had them.
It builds
Don't get
character.
me wrong. I'm glad I had them, and I do feel better after having had them. I just wish that I had, like, extended invite in the first place. Like, I was micromanaging the guest list too much.
Yeah. Again, it's tough. Like, there's probably a lot of people you want to invite. It's tough to have those conversations or disappoint anybody, but, it's a part of the process, and everyone goes through that same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Chris, what other kind of, stresses and setbacks can you kind of expect to happen?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, you and your partner are both going to be knee deep in the wedding process. You're probably both very busy people. Life's going to get in the way, just depending on your situations, So I just want to say, like, especially from a guy's perspective too, is like, make sure you're pulling your weight. Make sure you are doing your part of the wedding planning process, even if she has a lot of input, has the grand vision of how she wants her wedding to be. Make sure you're there to support her, add your advice, be involved, be there to support those decisions, be a part of the phone calls, be a part of just the overall process and help. Because it can be a very stressful thing, like managing both your career and a wedding, right? So something that we found helpful was just like scheduling regular calls, right? Scheduling, regular check-ins every week, just especially since we were kind of more long distance during this time, that, we're both checking in with each other, making sure that we're holding each other accountable so that we're both pulling our weight at the end of the day.
Yeah. And just one thing to stress about this is that you guys are not each other's enemy. Because when these, bad news happens, when the setback hits, when all of a sudden you're, 10, 20K over budget because of something you forgot, it's very easy to lash out to the person that's right next to you because you have no one else to lash out to, honestly. And when that happens, when you feel that need, just understand that that person that's next to you, that is not who you need to be lashing out at. That's the person
not your enemy.
It's not your enemy. It's the person you got to work with to solve this problem, and like, it's not to say anyone's a good or a bad person for doing that. It's just natural human, nature, because there's no one else to scream at. There's no one else to be annoyed with. It's just one person right next to you. So it's the first person that's going to get the brunt of that attention. But, take a step back, work together. And like, if you do that and solve the problem together, A, you guys are going to become closer, which is beautiful. B, you will probably end up getting an answer that is as good or better than whatever problem was originally presented to you, and even if it's not quite as good, you will both be on board with it, both involved. So definitely when you do start feeling like your temper rise, just take a step back, take a breath, and, change your perspective. Like, how can I work together with my fiance to solve this instead of, like fighting with her?
Yeah. That's great. Like, again, it's hard to do in the moment when emotions are running high, but don't say anything you're going to regret. It's a building block moment of your relationship. It's going to be a bit of a test, but at the end of the day, you should come out stronger for it. So just realize that you're there. It's you two versus the world, and look at it that way, right?
And Chris, honestly, if you just like think about this, like what you're fighting about, right? In my mind, right, I'm imagining you just got in this giant fight
Over some flowers or something.
Exactly. I was thinking flowers, like maybe you wanted roses and all they had was
damn,
lilies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or something, right? Like, and you're getting this like huge fight over that. And it's like, just stop for a second, just listen to yourself. What are you fighting about? Like, because like you're in that mood where like everything needs to be perfect. And like and you're putting all this effort, all this time into it. Like it's almost feeling like it's who you are as a person. It's like validation on you, but like these are things that people aren't gonna like pay attention to. They'll be like it's nice, and then they'll go on with their day eating food and getting drunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the invites, right? Like people look at them, they appreciate them for like 2 minutes, and then it just gets tacked up on the fridge, or they RSVP and then throw everything away and just go, okay, I got the website bookmarked, I'm fine.
Yeah, but those 2 minutes for you were like 2 weeks at night after work, exactly. Just getting the perfect colors.
Yeah. What other advice do you have for people to kind of stay connected?
Chris, I know you mentioned this, but just like you're going to see each other every day, but you're going to see each other in like a very working way. You kind of have deadlines to meet, projects to solve, because that's kind of what a wedding is. So you should definitely still find time to like have dates, setting up time to like go to a movie, go to a park, go for a walk. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just something that you two are doing together outside of, the hustle of everyday life. Like when you first started dating, you were planning dates. And they weren't always...
It could be a no wedding zone, you don't have to talk about anything wedding planning.
Okay, you're going to say that. You're still going to talk about the wedding.
It's not going to happen, yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like, it'll come up, right? Because that's literally your life for the next, like, year-ish. Which, if you listen to our advice, it's at least 12 months, because, like, you need that time. But, like Chris, I know that we have on our calendars a standing monthly date, once a month. And that may not seem like a lot, but with social like activities, what they are, like wedding stuff, what they are, like even that sometimes can be hard to do, or like you lose sight of it. But it's fun to look forward to. You can still plan something. Like we take our dog to the beach. She loves it. That's a good hour and a half walk for us, just outside, just enjoying the sun. So it's important to take time to do these little things.
Yeah, stay connected. Keep finding those reasons why you fell in love in the first place. And again, it doesn't have to be an elaborate date. Again, as you just said, like it's just like walking the dog, spending an hour, just getting a little exercise, or maybe both going to the gym at the same time, losing a few pounds before the wedding, right? Like both have goals, get some of that stress out, like all of those things can be worthwhile and important time to connect and de-stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, yes, she said yes. Yes, she's going to be your wife. Like that doesn't mean you should stop, trying to date her.
You don't get to throw in the towel at that point and not just say, like, throw your hands up and be like, I don't care.
Yeah. And fellas, the same goes true on the other side. She'd still be trying to date you, right? Like, it's not like the relationship is over just because you both agreed to get married. Like, no, that's dumb. It's still going on.
Yep. Keep fighting for each other. And as I said, keep finding the reasons why you fell in love in the first place. Like that'll guide you through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's going to be a lot of setbacks and a lot of bad news in the future. But ultimately, nothing that you two can't, overcome together.
Great. Anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap up?
I mean, there's a lot. I'm probably going to remember as soon as we get off this call, like a million different things.
And I think also you can talk to people that, friends and family that maybe have recently got married too. Like, take some time to pick their brains and see what they did. Could be good advice, and maybe they have some ideas to kind of also offer you and some insight and some wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I mean, I know we started this episode with people who give you their opinions, and you don't have to take all of them, but hey, maybe there are people whose opinions you do actually need. Don't be afraid to seek them out.
Unsolicited opinions are one thing, but seeking out opinions is a different one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so Chris, I think that's all very good advice. I think these are definitely things to consider during your wedding planning journey, to make it as smooth as possible. But just know it won't be smooth. There's always going to be something.
There's gonna be bumps and surprises and curveballs, and you just take them as they come and do it together.
Yeah, of course. So with that, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.